Okay, hello and welcome to my first live coding session here on YouTube. I just took about, I don't know, 2 hours with the help of some friends to set up, like my streaming setup, um, to make sure everything is in good quality and stuff. Um, yeah, it was actually surprisingly. Everything worked out surprisingly well. Let's say it like that. Um, I thought maybe it would be a great idea to make these sort of live coding sessions a thing on my channel where we just hang out and code something together. And I thought, yeah, maybe I want to work on like my website. I mean, I've had a website for a couple years now, but it's really obsolete. I created it like no 4 years ago, I think, and I never really updated it. And it's really it's there, but it's not really like a fully functional website. It's just some stupid static HTML. It's just not really not really a thing. So I thought maybe I could work on it. Maybe I could create like an ASP.NET MVC web application. Maybe overkill for what I want to do, but I just want to have some fun. And I thought, yeah, maybe let's do it live and have some people join in, some of my subscribers, so we could hang out, have a little chat, and yeah, just see if this kind of thing works out. I don't know if I'm going to actually make this a regular thing. This is kind of just an experimental stream. If you want to hang out here, that's absolutely cool and I appreciate it. But I don't really have like a solid plan here. I just want to work on this ASP website. My first idea is that I want to I have a blog on WordPress, which I haven't updated in years, but I plan on changing that. And what I want to do is I want to create like a quick client library for consuming the WordPress REST API to fetch all of my blog posts and then like sort of post-process them and render them on my website. Actually, the website is not there yet. I'm going to completely build it from scratch. And it's more of a dynamic web application than an actual website. So far, that's basically the only plan that I have. Later on, what I want to do is I want to centralize all of this stuff that I post here on the channel, the tutorial videos, the coding sessions. I want to centralize them on this website. Hold on, let me just check if the audio is working. Can you hear me? Is anybody even there? Just let me know if you can hear me, if anyone's there. It tells me here that 2 people are watching, so if YouTube's not lying to me, then there must be someone who can quickly tell me whether or not I'm audible. That would be great and I would appreciate that. So yeah, like I said, I want to first off create the website, and I want to working. Oh, thanks a lot. Thanks. Create the website and then consume this REST API of WordPress to get my blog posts and just somehow render them on my website. And after that, like I said, centralize the stuff that I have here on the channel so that I have like a database of all of my videos. And maybe later on I will have some user login actually where people can, I don't know, sign up for stuff like courses, I don't know, some resources, some learning material, stuff like that. I don't know. I'm just establishing this website here from scratch. I don't really have like a solid plan. So yeah, that's basically it. I actually want to see if some more people are joining. I mean, if not, that's cool. Then I'm just gonna start anyway. It's actually quite late here where I am. I'm actually streaming from Germany, and it's quite late, so I don't have too much time here. Maybe an hour or two, but I think 1 hour or two is enough to already achieve a lot, and if not, that's cool as well. So yeah, let me just hold on, give me a minute here. Okay. Yeah. I guess I can just start, I guess. Anyone can join in whenever they want. What I have here, what I pulled up here on Visual Studio, it was just for testing purposes. If everything is readable and the quality is all right, but I was told that everything is crystal clear and it should be no problem for you to read all of this. But if you're having problems, just let me know. Yeah, so what I want to do now is actually create this new project. So let me close this here. We'll actually just say new. Oh, let me just hold on. There we go. And I want to create a new project. It's going to be an ASP.NET Core web application. And I'm going to name it the name of my pseudo company. Let's say Web Official, or maybe wait, no, let's just say YetiByte Official and then web. That's fine. Put it in my repos, create. That's fine. Web application MVC, that's also fine. I know that there's quite a bit of latency. You do not sound German at all. Yeah, thanks. I was actually told earlier today. I did 3 test streams earlier, just with some friends. Yeah, and they told me the same thing. And yeah, thanks for that. I guess I guess I can take that as a compliment. Yeah, I know. Well, I have a background in languages. Before I actually started my career as a developer, I was, yeah, I had a background in languages. Let's just put it like that. And in my actual job as a developer, I work with international teams as well, and I do just use English a lot, basically. So, yeah. Let's see. So, new project is up here. It should already work. The one thing that I'm really concerned, that I'm most concerned, I'm not really concerned, it's just that I'm most concerned about this whole streaming thing is security. Like, I don't want any API keys or something like that to leak or anything. But I think I got things figured out, so I think I'm good. So there we are. I'm actually streaming on a separate monitor here, so I always have to like, yeah, pull it over here on the second screen. So yeah, done. My website is done. Thanks for joining. See you next time. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, so the template is up and running, and I'm just gonna work on it now. I really hate working with CSS and HTML. I wouldn't say I'm bad at it. It's just, I just don't like it. I just don't enjoy it. I like Bootstrap as a framework, but it's also a pain to remember all of the CSS classes. And I always have to look them up, and it's just annoying. So bear with me on that part. It's not going to be fun. But what I want to focus on mostly today is just consuming this REST API provided by WordPress. And I'm actually going to put that in a separate project here. So I'm going to say add new project. Library. And I hope actually, because what I want to do is, I don't want to write the REST client myself. I'm going to use RestSharp as a REST client library, and I'm going to write a wrapper for that RestSharp client that is specifically tailored to retrieve the posts, the blog posts from WordPress. And yeah, I know that there's already plenty of pre-made client libraries for .NET to consume this REST API. But what's the fun in using those? You know, I just want to create like my own little library specifically tailored for this solution here. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I hope everything is still up and running. But it seems to be okay. At least that's what YouTube tells me. So where is it? Class library.NET standard would also be okay. Yeah, actually, I guess that makes sense. I could use either a core or a .NET standard library. Let's see. I mean, I think so far only 2 people are watching. Would be great if more people joined in, but yeah, obviously it's my first stream, so it's going to take a while for people to actually even notice that this is a thing. So that's okay. I'm just gonna start, and people can join and yeah, stop by whenever they want at their own pace. Hold on, let me just spread the word here. Bear with me, just 1 second. I'm just gonna post a link to the stream to Twitter so that people know. There we go. And there we go. Just bear with me a second though. Keep going in a second. There. Okay. So, I guess I can use the standard library. I'm actually not sure. Let's just go with that. Oops. And let's call this WordPress client. I just really hope that the RestSharp library is compatible with .NET standard library. I'm actually not quite sure, but if not, I'm sure there's enough other options. I'm going to delete this stub here. And manage NuGet packages. And there should be RestSharp. There it is. Install that, yes. Okay, works great. So that's good. So now let's see. First of all, I'm gonna create a namespace here. Let's call it client. And another one, data. And I assume probably they're both just going to contain a single class, at least for now. So I already checked out the documentation of the API, of the REST API. Hold on. Yeah, and it's actually pretty straightforward. So let's create a class here and let's call it WordPress client or REST client. And I'm quite amazed by the latency, or I almost want to say shocked, because it's at least 10 seconds of latency, which I guess can be awkward when I'm responding to the chat. So bear with me on that. I'm gonna have to fiddle with the settings to improve on that, but yeah, I guess for now it's okay. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to use this RestSharp client to consume the REST API. And actually, I don't even need a client ID and client secret. It's just publicly available as far as I know. So I don't even need to authenticate myself. So that's fine. Let's see. What do I need? I need a method for first of all, let's see. Let me pull up something here. There. This is a documentation of the WordPress API. And what I'm interested in here is the posts. And there is a service operation for getting a list of matching posts. And it's actually quite well documented. And yeah, I think for now, this is the only endpoint that I actually need to send requests to. So, yeah, I didn't plan out anything, so I'm just doing this from scratch and doing this off the cuff. So let's see. I guess let's go into Visual Studio. And I think the namespace is just called RestSharp. Yeah, it is. I'm going to use private field here for the client. Then in the constructor, going to initialize it. Whoops. And I think I need to pass the base URL here. Yeah, I do. And let's see what the base URL is. I think I already, yeah, there. So this is my WordPress site. Like I said, I haven't updated it in literally years. So, but I plan on changing that. And even if I don't, it's still fun just, you know, coding this. So let's go here. I think this is all the base URL. So I'm going to store this in a constant. And pass it here. There. And I'm not sure if the REST client actually implements the iDisposable interface. Let me check. Because it may be unmanaged. Well, I'm not sure. No. It doesn't look like it does. So yeah, what actually do I want to retrieve? Well, obviously the blog posts. But I need to check the documentation for what the blog posts actually consist of, like what their actual properties are. So let's take a look in the documentation. And actually, it's even easier. Let's use this link here to send a request, a GET request to that endpoint. So I can just send a GET request to this endpoint, and I should get all of the posts that I ever created. Yes, I do. And I think there's a parameter here, a query parameter there, named pretty, which I can use to just format the output so that it's more readable. So let me just do that. There. You see, this is exactly what I mean. I mean, this is a public API. Anyone can send requests there. As you see, I don't need any sort of authentication, authorization. It's just available to me publicly. But you see here, it's like log in the email and stuff. Actually, it doesn't contain the email, but it contains the username. And yeah, obviously this is all publicly available data, so there's nothing to worry about. But sometimes, you know, something might slip through that I'm just not thinking about. And this is one of the reasons why I was kind of reluctant to kind of do streaming live. But I think I've taken care of everything, and I'm actually careful enough, so that's fine. Yeah, so this is how we get all the posts, and I think they're actually HTML formatted here. I mean, like the content here is actually, yeah, it's valid HTML, so I can just literally embed that in my website. Yeah, I just need to read the documentation here and check what all of the parameters are and what they do. I'm probably not going to need many of them. But let's see. Okay. So obviously what the posts consist of here is an ID, a site ID, which I guess is the ID of my website or my WordPress site. Then some information about the author, which is me, with a link to the avatar and stuff like that. I think I don't care about this because I know they're my own blog posts, so I don't care about the author, so I don't need to encapsulate that data. So this is what I mean by tailoring it to my needs here. If I were to use like a pre-made client library, they would expose all of this data that I don't even really need. So, okay, so what's really important here? The ID, not really important to me, but I guess it doesn't do any harm to include it. So let's go here. Let's create a class in the data namespace and call it WordPress blog post. It's going to be public. And just to be sure, can you still hear me? And can you see everything everything fine? Like, can you read the code on the screen? And is the volume level okay? I guess it can just be a Foco. Oops. Ah, you see, this is what I mean by the latency. It just took about 20 seconds for me to see your response. Oh, yeah, thanks, Jakub. Great. See, YouTube is lying to me about the number of viewers. Because earlier when I tested, it said, all the time it said that there was one viewer, and I just assumed that it counts me, myself, as a viewer. But right now it says 2 viewers, so it doesn't make sense. And it just increased to 3. So somebody just joined. Welcome. This is my first live coding session here on my channel. I'm going to work on my official website, official in quotes, which is going to be an ASP.NET MVC application. And we're going to consume the WordPress public API to get all of my blog posts that I wrote years ago. How to get the exposure you have. What do you mean by that? I don't think I have much oh my. I just received your message that you also hate HTML and CSS. I said that like 10 minutes ago, at least. I hope this is not the level of latency we're dealing with here. Or are you just maybe... Are you not... is your live stream maybe not up to date? I mean, as long as everything is sorry, as long as everything is transmitted to you and you can see everything and hear everything, I guess we're good. But it's kind of awkward with the chat interaction if there's such a latency. That's something I'm going to have to work on. But for now, I don't really know what I can do better. Like the bit rate is actually quite high. Maybe it's a YouTube thing. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to switch over to Twitch at some point, but I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm not a big fan of writing HTML and CSS. I mean, it's not a hard thing to do. It's just tedious. It's just basically pushing pixels around. Like, yeah. And I always have to look up the Bootstrap documentation for the different CSS classes and stuff, and it's really annoying and time consuming. So yeah. But anyway, let's get going here. So the ID I don't actually need, but now I got it. The date is something interesting that we need because I want to order the posts by their date, obviously. Then there's the modification date. I guess that can be interesting, so let's add that as a property here as well. Modified. The title, the URL, both interesting. So let's add them here. And I know that there's ways to do all of this automatically. If there's like a RAML file or something, I could use that, but I'm just gonna, you know, have like a bespoke manually created solution here. String title and URL, and what else? Short URL might also be interesting, and of course the content, the most important part. Whoops, that was not my intention. And yeah, I guess I'm gonna model this just as the Poco class, just, you know, a bunch of public getters and setters, because there's not going to be any logic in here anyway, so I don't really have to make sure of the data consistency or anything. It's really just basically a DTO, a data transfer object. It's just for encapsulating the data, so I guess that's fine. So let's have a method here that returns the blog posts as an IEnumerable. And now I got to think about the parameter list. because obviously I shouldn't always, hold on, what's this? Okay. I shouldn't always just fetch all of them. Because in theory, there could be hundreds and hundreds of blog posts. Obviously, I'm not that productive, but you know, in theory, there could be hundreds of blog posts. So it's not very sensible to just fetch all of them at once. So I should probably use the pagination parameters. So maybe let's go int. Let's say max post count, and page number or page index would be better, because I know that the result set from the REST API, oh, that was stupid, can be paginated. And yeah, so hold on. I haven't used RestSharp in a while, so I'm gonna have to remember how exactly it works. I guess you can just create a REST request here. Let's see the overloads for the constructor. Yeah, the method would be get. Let's see. This would be the resource, but I don't want to hard code it here. I mean, it's basically tailored for my solution here, but I still want it to be somewhat reusable. So I'm going to add property here. And I'm going to call it, okay. I'm going to call it site name. And I'm going to add that to the constructor. And actually, I think it could be read-only. And then I can do this and add a null check here. There. So when I create an instance of this WordPress client, I'm going to have to specify the site name, and if I just pass null or a blank string or something, it's going to throw an exception. So here, let's see. Yeah, so I was told earlier that at least for one of the viewers, whenever they, or not whenever, but sometimes when they were trying to post a chat message, it popped up in the chat, but immediately after that it just disappeared. So I hope that's not the case. Oh, hold on. And I think that should be fine. I'm going to store this in a constant. Oops. Oh, sorry. Oh, that was meant to go into the chat window. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to send a request to this endpoint. Let's see. I really need to remember how RestSharp worked, but I remember it being very, very, very simple. I guess I can just say client. Or actually, do I have to? Can I just... execute. Executes the given request. Okay. And I guess there's also a generic version of that? Yes. Okay. So let's see. I need to add the query parameters as well. And I think I can do that here. Yeah, add parameter. And I think there's an overload of the method where I can specify it's glitching out. Why does it keep doing that? It keeps just closing the IntelliSense window for some reason. I guess it might be because I'm using a separate monitor, but that's really weird. Yeah, it just keeps closing the window. That's... I can't work with that. No, it just keeps closing. It's really weird, but okay. Adds a HTTP parameter to the request. Query string for get, delete option, blah, blah. Okay, it's automatically going to assume it's a query string if it's a get request. So that's fine then. The name is, let's see in the documentation. I want to add the parameters for the number and the page index. Hold on. There, page. Return the nth one indexed page. What do they mean one indexed? I guess it means starting with 1 as opposed to 0. Takes precedence over the offset parameter. Number. The number of posts to return. Limit 100. Default 20. So yeah, we need number and page. So number is going to be max post count. And page is going to be page index. Just for my own sake, gets retrieves all WordPress blog posts from the WordPress REST API. the maximum number of posts to fetch the one. And yeah, obviously this execute method returns the response. And I think I can just strongly type it by using this generic version of the method and pass the WordPress blog post here. And I think it automatically maps the properties, the JSON properties, to the properties of the same name here in the class. So I don't think I actually have to do the mapping myself. And oops. That's fine. I don't know if this can throw an exception. I don't know how well documented it is. I assume it throws an exception if, I don't know, if there's a timeout or if there's no internet connection at all. But for now, I'm just going to completely ignore that. Response. Oh no. Say if response is not equal null and response, or actually data. Oh, I think now it assumes that it only returns a single blog post. And obviously that's not the case. I need to either make this an array or like an IEnumerable or any kind of collection. I think an array is fine. Then I can say here this. If the response itself or the data in the response is not null, then apparently we have some data. And yeah, then I can just, well, actually it's already, well, actually we can make it even easier. There. And obviously I have to work on this and do some error handling and stuff, but I just want to check if this works. So let's go ahead and create a unit test library here to just check if this already works. I might have forgotten something, but let's see. Add project. Test. Oh, that's I always get this mixed up. I always want to create a new project and then enter the name here instead of the type of the project. It's so stupid. Unit test. Where's the? Yeah, I guess I can use the core version. Where is it? Unit test. Oops. Unit test core. That's Visual Basic. MS test project. The project contains unit tests that run on .NET Core. Yeah, that's exactly what I want. And here is what I meant to name the project. Test. Create. And we're going to have to add the RestSharp dependency here as well. And I'm always very, very open to suggestions, questions, comments, any stuff of that kind. So feel free to always shoot me a message, stuff. We can talk about it. So yeah, RestSharp references here. So let's add a unit test here and call it WordPress test. Okay. It doesn't need. Okay, so I guess it does. It's going to be test class. Then I'm going to. Whoops. Add a unit test here. And I guess what I want to test is that just basically at least one blog post is fetched from the REST endpoint. So let's say get blog posts returns at least one. So this is usually the type of convention that I stick with when I write unit tests. I specify the name of the method that I'm going to test, and then the expected outcome, so that when I see in the text in the test explorer that this unit test failed, then I know exactly what is not working. So if there's a unit test named get blog posts returns at least one, and that test fails, then I know that for some reason the endpoint doesn't return any blog posts. So yeah. Test method. And I'm going to have to create an instance of my WordPress client. So I need to add a reference to that other project here. Whoops. And now the site name, which I have here. And then what's this? Maximum post count, let's say 10. Page index is 1. And then assert, let's just say is true. Posts oops. Actually, hey, is the link not? Oh, actually, we need to. Let's just say any. So if the get blog post method, if the enumerable returned by this method contains at least one element, then we're fine. So I'm actually going to debug this, and I'm pretty sure that I forgot something. This has been way too smooth and way too quick. So I'm pretty sure there's something that I'm missing here, but let's see. I'm going to debug this test. And post is null. Okay, so there's something wrong. As expected. This was going way too smooth. So let's test it again, I guess, and see what's going on. So we create the request, we add the 2 parameters to the request, and then we call the execute method. Let's check the response. So the status code is okay, that's a good sign. But the data is null. Oh, no parameterless constructor defined for type. Oh, I see. Okay, so in order to deserialize the JSON data, it needs to have the type that I specify here needs to have a parameterless constructor. And the type that I'm passing here is array of WordPress blog posts. So that's not going to work. But let's see, there must be a way. I mean, I can encapsulate. Actually, that's not a bad idea. What I can do here, as you can see here, if I just consume this endpoint here in the browser, what I actually get is 2 things. I get an array of the posts, but I also get this found property, which just specifies how many results there are. So let's actually encapsulate both of these. So what I mean by that, I'm going to go here. I'm going to add a new class. I'm going to say, I don't know, WordPress blog response. And this can actually be internal because I'm not going to use it outside of the library, I guess. So but I want this. Actually, it's fine. I can just let's say. I think this should work. And then I'm going to say here, the actual type is WordPress blog response. And then instead of data, I'm going to say posts. So because now the actual data object here is of type WordPress blog response. So I hope this fixes it. And it's still null. That's unfortunate. Let's go back here. Cannot create an instance of an interface. Okay. Okay, so this deserialization, that the default deserialization here that RestSharp does is actually not too clever. What it actually does, it looks at what type the property is defined with or declared with, and it just then tries to create an instance of that using a parameterless default constructor. And obviously iCollection is an interface and you can create an instance of that. I thought that, yeah, the deserialization process would be a little smarter and would actually be able to tell that, okay, it's a collection, so I'm just gonna use an array. But okay, never mind. Since this is really just a DTO, I'm just going to go ahead and say it's an array. Let's see. Oh, come on, what's wrong? How can this be a problem? It's not like I've never done this. Nope, yeah, same problem. Ah, okay. Hold on. I know what I can do. It needs a parameterless constructor. Well, in that case, I'm just going to use a list because a list does have a parameterless constructor. There. 10 is exactly the number we specified. And there it is. This is a blog post that I wrote about a game engine that I was developing at that time. It sounds like a huge deal, like I create my own game engine, but it was basically just a higher level wrapper, or not wrapper, but like a higher level extension to the monogame framework. And at that point I was posting about, yeah, developing that library or that framework. I never really finished that. It was basically just me experimenting. But yeah. I plan to actually release some or post some new blog entries in the future, just about general development stuff. And I want to keep using WordPress for that, and I want to use this MVC application here to just automatically embed them on my website without actually having to manually add them there. So I'm going to use this REST interface, this RESTful interface to do that automatically. And there we go. So that works. There's a check mark on the unit test. So hooray, we're good. But let's actually take another look at the documentation, at the parameters here, because I think I might need some more. Here, obviously, I can specify the order, which may be very handy. And order by, that's not, I don't think I need that. After, return post dated after the specified date time. That's also pretty handy to have. But I think for my specific use case, I don't need that. I think what I want to do is just, basically just get all of the, no, not all of the posts, but like in a paginated way. So on the actual website, I want to show like, I don't know, 2 or 3 blog posts at once. And then I want to asynchronously have the ability to switch the page. So really all I want, or all I need for that is the page and the number parameter. But I guess it also makes sense to be able to order them. So I'm going to include this order parameter as well. And it's either desk or ask. So let's do that. Here. Sorry, I just got some pop-ups here on my other monitor. Can you still hear me okay? I'm always just checking in because I've had it in the past that sometimes my microphone just failed on me for some reason at some point, just stopped working. Oops. So it would be great. I would appreciate it if you could tell me if the audio is still up and running and you can hear me okay. Okay, thanks. I really appreciate that. Like seriously, it's always really good to have a viewer who's really responsive and tells you if everything's fine. Yeah, this is, I still don't understand. I mean, it's 2020. Yeah, our game. Thanks. Yeah, that's a language I do understand. Thanks. So yeah, I don't get it. I mean, this is what I actually forgot. I forget what the current version of Visual Studio is. 2019, I think. This is quite embarrassing because I work with this every day, but 2019, right? The current version of Visual Studio is 2019. So yeah, so it's 2020 and this is like the millionth version of Visual Studio and we still don't have a template for enumerations or enums. Like if I want to add a new enum here to this namespace, I have to select any of these other templates because there's no enum template. Like why? How is that not a thing? So I have to select class, so I have to lie to them and say, okay, ordering type. And I'm going to have to change that to enum. I mean, it's not a big deal, obviously, but how is that not a thing? And I know that since there are just 2, I may as well have just used a Boolean, but I think it's more elegant and more clear and clean to do it like this, but it's really just me having fun here. So so here I'm going to add a new argument of type ordering type. And let's call it order. And by default, I'm going to set it to, I guess descending makes sense, right? So I get the latest blog post first. Yeah. And then I'm going to add parameter order, and then say order equals ascending, then it's ASC, and otherwise it's DSC. Okay. And just to be thorough and just for fun, what I'm going to do is I create another unit test. Even though I know this is going to work. If this works, then why wouldn't this additional parameter work? But just for the funsies, so sorry, I should say ascending because descending is the default. And I'm just gonna copy that here. Here I'm gonna say ascending. And oh, hold on. Having an enum template is a nice to have, but I think there are more major issues with Visual Studio. Most obvious one for me is performance on lower end hardware. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was only semi-serious about this. I mean, it's really not a big deal, but I was just wondering, like, this is like the millionth version of Visual Studio, and how come they still haven't added a template for enum? But you're right. I mean, yeah, the performance can be bad. That's correct. Especially if you have to have multiple instances of Visual Studio open at the same time. Sometimes I do need that at my job, like when I'm trying to, like when the front end is implemented in .NET and the back end is as well, and I have to work on them both because I'm a full stack web developer. So that means sometimes I have to debug the back end while also working on the front end. So that means I have to have two instances of Visual Studio open, and that, yeah, it does take up a lot of memory, and yeah, it's true. But I'm still very happy with Visual Studio. I mean, I'm really like a Microsoft fanboy when it comes to this. I really gotta say, like, it's just .NET is really what really is homey to me, and I know that there's alternatives like Raider, I think. Raider IDE by, I think it's by the same people who made this popular extension. What's it called? ReSharper. The same people who made the ReSharper Visual Studio extension, they also created like this their own IDE. I think it's called Raider. Yeah, that's an alternative. I haven't tested that one ever. At my job, I work with Visual Studio Pro. So yeah, so I've always used Visual Studio. I mean, also there's this one that was specifically tailored for the Mono implementation of .NET. This, how's it called? Mono Develop, that ships with Unity. And then there's a very lightweight one called Sharp Develop. But yeah, it's lightweight, but that also comes with a price of not having too many tools available. It's basically, Sharp Develop is like, what I used it for is I put it on a USB drive, on a USB flash drive, and always when I went like to school, I always booted the IDE like from the flash drive, so I could develop some stuff while I was at school. But it was a school for training for application development, so it was an okay thing to do. So yeah, but yeah, I do to some extent agree that Visual Studio may take up some performance, but I don't really see a really good alternative to Visual Studio. Oh yeah, it's Raider, not Rider. No, sorry. Is it Raider or Rider? Okay. Yeah, I haven't really actively used Unity in a while because I like Unity for what it is, but I also dislike it for what it is, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of stuff that they basically force upon you I don't know. I prefer using like more like high level libraries, but just libraries, like monogame. I mean, it's called the monogame framework because it always also comes with like this pipeline tool and stuff. But I prefer the programmatic approach than the visual approach, I guess. But I digress. It's a different topic. So I just wanted to write this unit test here. So I guess the unit test works if there are at least two posts returned, and the first one has a date that is lower than the date of the second one. So first of all, let's say if posts equals null or posts not any, assert fail, block posts could not be retrieved. Oh yeah, it's JetBrains, right? That's what the company was called. Yeah, I always wanted to try that one out, but I never really got the chance. Is there like a community version of it? I've never really checked back on that. But blog post could not, and otherwise assert is true. Posts first date is less than posts element at one date. If at some point the audio gets quiet, then I might have accidentally muted myself. If that happens, please let me know. Yeah, thanks, Jakub. I might actually try that out at some point. But the thing is, I work with Visual Studio professionally, like in my job. So I'm just very used to it, and I'm actually quite a fan of it. So I'm probably not gonna switch the IDE, but I'm always open to trying out new stuff. So yeah, I'm probably going to give it a shot just to see, yeah, what the competitors have in their tool belt. So let's test this here. Let's just run it without debugging, and hopefully, yeah, it worked. Perfect. They also give out free licenses for people who work on open source. Okay, that's a good guy move. Yeah, but I mean, I guess in that case you have to really actively and productively work on those open source projects, not just casually from time to time. I don't think I have that kind of time, but I don't know. Okay, so that works, obviously, and I was expecting this to take a little longer, so, but obviously my WordPress client is already working. I will probably flesh it out some more later, but for now, I guess this is it. I hate hard-coded string literals, so I'm going to introduce constants for these. Let's say param name number. Jakub, if I may ask, what's your experience? I mean, what's your level of, let's say, experience or skill in this area, like .NET and C#? And are you just a curious newcomer, or are you actually a professional yourself, or do you have, like, what's your status? Oops. There we go. Yeah, that's fine. So that is done. So let's actually, I like to really structure my applications in clean layers. So even though in this case it may be overkill, I know that I will be working on this website for a longer period of time. So I want to keep everything clean. And that's why I'm going to introduce a service layer, or like a domain layer here, as a new project. And it's going to be a standard library, a .NET standard library. I'm bad at typing today. Gettybyte official, let's say domain. Yeah, you kind of got me curious about JetBrains Writer. I remember when it was first released. I think it was 2016, if I remember correctly. And I was really excited about, oh, hey, this is a great new IDE. It looks great and stuff. But I never really got to actually trying. I'm still in high school, so programming is just a hobby for me, but I've been coding for some time. I think I'm definitely past the beginner stage. Yeah, just from you talking like this, I think that you're definitely past beginner stage. I think you can really tell how people express their level of skill if they're confident in it. And yeah, there's no problem with your programming or coding just being your hobby. That doesn't mean, just because you, in quotes, only consider it your hobby, doesn't mean that you're not decent at it. I mean, for me, it started out as a hobby as well. Like I said, I have a professional background in languages originally. But I was always very interested in programming, software development, software architecture, software design. So I just did that basically as a hobby and basically honed my skills. And and that's kind of how I got into it as a job. So I then did an official training as an software developer, but that was basically just to get a certificate. I was actually already had earned all the skills previously on my own. But yeah, that's how I got into it. And so it's just because it's just a hobby, in quotes, it doesn't mean you're not decent and not skilled. So it doesn't tell anything about it, I guess. Okay, so what was I doing here? First of all, let's delete this. And yeah, what was I going to do? Oh yeah. Now, first of all, I'm kind of thinking of a design pattern here. I don't really want to directly use these WordPress blog post instances. I just generally don't want to depend on this class in my web application layer. I mean, I guess I could. It's not that big a deal. No, it seems redundant, but I'm going to actually define this as a domain entity, basically. First of all, I'm going to create an interface. Oh. And so the reason I'm creating this interface here is maybe I'm going to later also pull blog posts from other sources. It seems unlikely, and maybe I'm not going to do that, but I want to have that option. And maybe I'm even going to extend this website so that I can create blog posts locally on this website, so that I attach a database to it and then just completely independently from WordPress create the blog posts here in this web application. I'm not going to do that anytime soon, but I may do that later. So that's why I create this interface for anything that can be a blog post. And it doesn't really matter where it comes from. So it seems pointless now, and sometimes I tend to over-design stuff, but I think, yeah, I want to go with this approach. Date time. Let's say create or post date. Or no, it should be publish date. And another one, modification date. And actually I'm going to name this HTML content. And what else? I think that's it for now. And I'm going to add actually like an entity class. It seems redundant, but I think I want to go this way. They can all be, whoops. They can all be read-only auto properties. Or maybe this is overkill. See, what I want to do here is I want to have the ability to create other types of blog posts. So what I want to do first off, let's see. Hold on. So basically, I want to have a service class that is just responsible for fetching all sorts of blog posts that I can then render in my website. And it doesn't matter where they come from. Currently, obviously, they only come from WordPress. But like I said, later I might actually create local blogs, blog posts like in the website. And it shouldn't matter where they come from. So that's why I'm using this interface. And I want to here have an implementation of the interface that actually describes a blog post from WordPress. But I guess you know what? I don't need that. I can make it even simpler. I guess I can keep the iBlog post interface. There's nothing wrong with having. I'd rather have one interface too much than one too little. So what I want to do here is here I'm going to add another property called source. And the source will return where that comes from. So the WordPress blog post will always return wordpress.com or something like that. There. Actually, let's create a constructor for all of these properties. There, that's fine. So now the blog post service will here create a client, a WordPress client. Pass the site name, and I guess the site name I could hard code it here as, I guess that's fine. Or if I want to be really clean, now check this out. I don't remember where this interface, I don't know if it's in the abstractions. Guess it is. Let me just check something, hold on. I need to check the documentation really quick here, because I forgot where the interface is, in which namespace or in which assembly that I'm looking for. Yeah, it's actually correct. I mean, I could make all of this much easier, but I want to make it really clean and maintainable. There. Because if I inject a configuration here into the service, I can use a configuration file where I can include the name of my site. Obviously, the name of the site is never going to change, so I could just define it as a constant here, but I think it's cleaner to have it in a config file, so outside of the source code. But it's just me nitpicking, so. And what I can do here is I think I can just do, yeah. And then we will if string is null or white space site name, then I'm going to throw an exception. Let's just call it, yeah, let's just go with exception, and then say the WordPress site name is not configured in the application configuration. not very good practice to just throw an exception of type exception, but for now it's fine. And then yeah, max post count. I think this one I can hard code. Not hard code, but store it as a constant. Or actually, I'm just gonna pass it here. And then pass it here. And then I'm simply going to map those WordPress blog posts. First of all, if for some reason this is null, I'm going to throw an exception. For now, this is not very clean, but I'm going to do some more proper error handling later. So, and I'm going to return. So I'm going to use the select extension method to map these to instances of blog post. Title is title. Source is WordPress. I'm going to define a constant for that. Actually, I'm going to say WordPress.com. Publish date is the date, modified, and content. So I know this kind of seems a little redundant, but it does have a purpose. It's so I have the option to also fetch blog posts from other sources. Jakub says, is there a reason for you specifying exact variable type instead of using the var keyword? Or is it just out of habit? Yeah, it's just out of habit. Sometimes when I'm in a rush, I do use the var keyword. But I think you have to be consistent. It's either you keep using var to auto detect the typing, or you use the specific type explicitly, but not both. But yeah, sometimes when I'm in a rush, I do mix them. It's just personal preference, I guess. There's no real valid reason, no technical reason. That's just out of personal habit. But yeah, I guess it could be faster to just here go var, and it would do the same thing. So you know what? For your sake, I'm going to leave it like that. But yeah, good question. But no, there's not a real technical answer to that. It's just my personal preference. So yeah, that's it. And I guess for this mapping logic here, we may want to encapsulate that in a method or something, but let's not overdo it. It's already needlessly many layers here. But yeah, anyway. So here in my web application, there should be an app setting, yeah, here. And here I'm going to add a value for, this is just JSON. So I'm going to add a value here called WordPress site name. It has to be the same as I specified here in my service class. There. So just to make sure, I'm going to copy it there. And the value will be my WordPress site. So if for some reason I decide to change my username on WordPress or something, then I will just have to open the configuration here and change this, and everything will still work. And I don't actually have to change the source code. But yeah, it's just optimization, I guess. So yeah, let's go here. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, seems good. So now I can start with the actual website. I think there's already some controllers in here. No, it's actually just the home controller. Yeah, let's go. Let me start up the website really quick. So I guess for now, first of all, I'm going to remove this. So I'm going to go into the views, home, index, and remove all of this. And I guess maybe we could even display the latest blog post on the home, on the landing page. Maybe not the entire thing, obviously, but like a link to it. But yeah, but let's keep that in mind for later. So okay, I'm going to need a new view. That's obvious. But I'm also going to need a new model, and I'm also going to need a new controller. So first of all, let's start with a controller. Let's just add an empty controller. Let's call it block controller. Yeah, let's think for a second here. I actually think I should load the blog posts asynchronously with AJAX calls. I mean, I could just load them here at startup, but like I said, if I continue to add new blog posts, at some point there's going to be, let's say, 100 blog posts with a lot of content in them, and it's going to take some time to load them. So maybe I think what I should do, I should probably have an async method here. And let's call it or gotta think this through. First of all, we need to so I really think it's not a good idea to just load all of them. That's too much overhead. So loading one at a time is probably the best approach. Let's just say yeah. I should probably do this. And I'm going to go here. What did I name it? Blog post service or just blog service? blog post service. There. I'm going to add a null check here. There. And here I'm going to say private constant int. Actually, I don't need that. So I'm going to use that service. To get exactly 1. Then the index here will be the page index. So what I want to do is in the view, I want to have an AJAX call, so an asynchronous call to this endpoint here, this controller operation, and the index will be the page index. So basically it just shows one blog post, and then I can click next and the index will increase and I will get the next blog post, stuff like that. So I think that might be a good approach for now. Obviously I have to store them, and I'm going to use var again here. I actually haven't done this in a while. Let's see. Oh yeah, return JSON blog posts. So the JSON method is inherited from the controller class, and it just serializes whatever I pass to it to JSON. And so I just passed the enumeration of the blog posts here to the JSON method. It's just, yeah, return some JSON to the caller. And obviously, yeah, there's no await keyword here, so it's kind of redundant to have this be async. I guess it doesn't have to be async. I just need to get one blog post at a time. The actual retrieval of the blog post is not going to take too much time, so I guess it doesn't have to be async. I think this is fine. Okay, so that should be it. But I need to also go into the startup class here in my web application and configure the dependency injection so that my service gets past the configuration. Actually, the configuration should already be there, but hold on. There. Services, add transient. There. So I'm adding via dependency injection, I'm adding the service. so that it can be injected into the controller here. So that when the framework creates an instance of the controller, it knows how to inject the service implementation here. It would probably be better to use an interface here, but for now I'm just not going to need that, so it's fine. So yeah, let's get to the view. Say block view. Wait, hold on. Add view. For now, I'm not going to use a model. I'm going to add that manually later. The layout page will be, there should be one already. This one here, I'm just going to use that and modify it later. Yeah, for now, I'm just going to say blog. Okay, so first of all, let's go here. Sorry. In the home page. Oh no, it's in the, I want to add a link to the navigation here, and I think it's in the shared layout, and here is the navigation bar, and I'm going to add a new item here. Block. No, the action is just index. So I'm going to link this here to the block controller. And this should already work. But obviously the site will be empty. I don't care. Block. Whoops, I forgot something. Use block index. Oh yeah, stupid. I forgot the view. I mean, I didn't forget the view, I just need to add it here to a folder named block, the same as the name of the controller. And I'm going to move the block view here, yes. And I'm going to rename it index. Because by default, I mean, I could use any name, but by default, it would look for a view named index. There it is. It's super ugly. It's just default bootstrap, but yeah, I can customize that later. So let's go to the view. And now we need to write some JavaScript because I will have to asynchronously load the blog posts. So let's see. Does it make sense to... So we need some JavaScript here that calls the get blog post operation of the controller and passes the current index so that we get the next blog post and can post it, can render it in the blog view. So first of all, let me put a div here. Name it blog container. Let me just check something. I think I can just go section scripts. Wait, hold on. Oh. I really forgot. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. So I can add a section here, and whatever I will put in here will actually not be rendered immediately. It will be rendered when in the layout, here the render section is called. It's actually a capital S, so it was actually correct. It's going to be JavaScript. And oh. There. So jQuery, I'm using jQuery here, and because jQuery is always included by default here, I think. Or is it? Ah, yes, here. So by default, it actually includes jQuery, so I'm going to use jQuery here and define. Actually, I think I can just define the function here. Get next blog post. I'm going to have a variable here. Actually, let me go back into the blog controller here and to mark this as an action. Actually, I think I don't need to do that. think in the startup, it's by default configured. Yeah. In the URL, I can specify the name of the controller, and then the action, and then an ID. So in this case, it would be blog, get blog post, and then the ID. So oh, it's JavaScript. URL, and that's blog, get blog post, and then the blog post index. And then oh yeah, I actually do need this here. I'm just thinking out loud here. I'm just kind of, hold on. I should be able to really, I want here, in this container, I want to then render the blog post. And then I want to have a button that says next. And then you get to the next blog post, the next older blog post. So basically, action. Wait, hold on. Just a second. There, I always forget what the event name is here. I'm just going to get next blog post. So when the button is clicked, the get next blog post function is called. And value is really, doesn't need to have a value. Or maybe, I don't really like this JavaScript approach. Maybe I can just, I mean, it seemed like a good idea, but now that I'm doing it, I'd rather have a proper view model with all of the blog post data in it. Maybe. Let's make this easier for now. I think we can go with a simpler approach for now. Let's not use JavaScript. I'm going to comment this out for now. I think I have a better idea. We're going to add a view model here. Let's call it blog post view model. And here, there's going to be a property type integer. It's going to be called blog post or current blog post index. And then there's going to be a property of type blog post. It's just going to be called blog post. And now, yes, exactly. Now in the view, I'm going to say model blog post view model. Hold on. I think it needs to be lowercase. Yeah, okay. I was quite confused why it didn't pick up the type here correctly. So yeah, that's it. So I now defined that the model for this view will be of type blog post view model. So let's skip this. For now, I'm just going to, for testing purposes, I'm going to add here, let's say, yeah, just a paragraph where I output the, whoops. Hey. There. Why is it blog post? There. Just the title. So just for testing purposes. And then I'm going to first off delete this S. I'm going to first of all go into the blog post controller, a blog controller, and here the index, I will pass the view model. And when I first call the index operation, and I guess I can give this a constructor. But I'm also going to give it a default constructor. And what I'm doing this for is when I go here back into the blog post controller, I'm going to actually do this here, get all of the blog posts. The index will be 1. And then I will optimize this later, but for now, I'm just going to say 1 and then blog posts. Come on. Blog posts. First or default. Hey, what's wrong? Cannot convert. Oh yeah, it's tough type iBlock post. Right. So maybe it wasn't that smart to use an interface after all. But actually, yeah, actually it's not that smart to use those domain entities in the view model in the first place. So I should actually, so in my view model here, I'm using this blog post entity, which is actually a domain object, and I should probably not do that. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to create a proper view model. Like this. For now, I only need the title and the HTML. I don't care about the rest. So now when first of all, I need to go back into the view. Where is it? Here. And obviously this doesn't exist anymore. I'm just going to say model title. Fine. And now in my controller, I will simply create a new blog post view model and use object initialization syntax here to set the current index to 1 and the title to the title of the first blog post and the HTML. Whoops. First or default HTML. There. Now, this should already work. So now when I go to the blog page the first time, it should show the title of the first blog retrieved from WordPress. Yeah, there it is. And I can confirm that. I mean, here, this could be anything, right? There's, I would need to verify that, but I can just go to my blog. And as you can see, it exactly matches the title here. And obviously I need to also render the actual blog. But that's what the HTML is for. So what I can do, first of all, I don't need this anymore. I will have a separate operation on this controller, a method, and that will get yeah, the one or actually what I could do, I could actually pass the view model here and use the current index. And if the view model is null for some reason, I'm going to create a new one. Just bear with me. So the first time that I call index, obviously the view model hasn't been created yet, so it will be null. But if it's null, what's wrong here? Oh yeah, right, that's this new syntax. So first time I call index is called, the view model will not be instantiated yet, so it will be null. So if it is null, I'm just going to assign a new instance of the view model, and I'm going to set the current index to 1. And then I'm going to use this index here as the page index for my service. This one I will just say there. I think this should work, because now basically first time I call it, it will just create a new view model, and actually I don't need to create a new one here. I can just reuse it and say VM title equals blog posts first or default title and HTML blog posts first or default HTML. There. So again, if I call it the first time, there will be no view model yet. So I will create one, set the current index to 1, then for the page index in my service method here, I will pass that and then get the results. And from the results, I get the first one, because there will only be one. And then I will use the title and HTML properties and assign them to the properties of the same name in the view model, so that I can then output them here in my view. And I think this should still work, if I'm not mistaken. I don't necessarily work with ASP.NET MVC every day, so I need to check. Yeah, there we go. So now, if we add a button in our view, we can set the action to index. First of all, let's make sure that the HTML is rendered, right? So I guess this should be. And now I need to remember the CSS classes of Bootstrap, because I think there are some classes that we can utilize here. Hold on. I think using the cards of Bootstrap might be a good idea. So we would have a card title, which would be the title of the blog post. Then under that, we would just render the HTML. Yep, I think we could do that. Let's say here, card. And then card body. Let's just look up the documentation again here. And then there's card title and card text. There. And for the title, I'm just going to use the title property from the view model. And then there should be a utility method for rendering HTML. What is it called again? Hold on. Yeah, it's right. It's called HTML raw, and then I can just pass raw HTML. So I'm going to do exactly that. And I can terminate the statement with a semicolon, but I think it's optional. Let's just check if this looks okay. Obviously, it's not going to be the finished design. I will have to work on that, but just in general, if the layout is okay. There we go. Yeah, that is a blog post I created quite some time ago. Yeah, we will have to figure out the layout a little bit because obviously this overflows here, this giant image. Um, but generally, it's working. So hold on. This is the part that I hate, like CSS, HTML. It's just there's so many options and it's so hard to choose. Um, I don't know. I think there's a style CSS file already that we can use for the CSS stuff. Yes, no, it's called site.css. I'm sorry. And here, I'm going to go block body. Oops. And this is where I'm going to do the styling. Let's say max width. But no, I don't want to hard code the maximum width here. It's fairly stupid. I'm probably going to need to use the grid from Bootstrap. Hold on. Well, ah. Maybe this would even be better if we use this style. I'm not sure. I'm so uncertain about the design, how it should look. I'm really not. Yeah, I'm really not sure what we're going to do here. Hmm. Not sure. Badges. You know what? Generally, I like this. This gives me an idea. What I could do is use this card style. Obviously, it's going to be customized a little, but for now, it's going to be very plain and simple. And what for the card title, I will obviously use the title of the blog post. And here, as the subtitle, I will use the date when it was published. And then I will render the HTML. And then here, I will add a card link. And that link will actually be the URL to the original blog post on WordPress. I think that's quite a good idea. So actually what I'm going to do is go ahead and copy this and just change it up a little. But the width is not going to be hard-coded like this. The title is model dot title. Subtitle is we haven't included the publish date in the view model yet, so we have to do that. So I'm going to go into the blog post view model, and I'm going to add property of type datetime called publish date, and I'm going to add source URL. And now in my controller, I can say VM publish date equals. I mean, this sort of mapping can also be automated using libraries like what's it called, AutoMapper, for example. But since it's still just a very simple application here, I'm just going to do that manually. And you know what? I'm going to make the publish date a nullable date time. There. And the URL. And I think I haven't included that yet. Okay. Yeah, hold on. Let's go into the blog post interface. Yeah. Let's add a property here, source URL. Oops. Yeah, and I guess it can have a setter, it's fine. And then in the service, well, I guess in the blog post here, it's not actually included. Oh, there it is, short URL. So in my service, I can just map. Here, I can just say URL, short URL. It's a little ugly, but it's fine. So, okay. Let's go back here. Let's say source URL. There we go. And now I can go into my view model. And, oh, no, I meant my view. Sorry. There. And there will be exactly one link. And here, oh, I will map this to the source URL. And here I can actually use the source property, which I haven't included yet. Wait, hold on. What I'm gonna do is where is it? So my blog post always has a source, right? Oh, this shouldn't be there. There. It always has a source, and currently the only implementation always has the value, or always returns the value WordPress or WordPress.com. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a property here to my view model, also called source, and I'm going to map that in the controller. Again, this could be automated, but it's okay. And then I'm going to say here view model. Actually, I'm going to go into the view there. And I'm going to say view on model source. So it should say view on WordPress.com, and it should link me to the original post. Obviously, the text here is not just going to be a paragraph. Instead, I'm going to add a div here, call it blog body. And then again, go HTML, raw. Oh, yeah, that's right. HTML. But obviously, this is still going to be too large. So I'll have to kind of make it fit into the actual div. Oh, I forgot to output the date. Um, what I'm going to do is go into the view model. And I think there is an attribute here. Display format. Oh, and there's a property data format string. And let's say year. Actually, month. Day. Year. And then hour, minute. I think this should work. And I'm almost streaming for 3 hours now, and I think I should call it a day. Not yet, but in a couple minutes. I just want to make sure this is working. And there we go, it looks great. But it's not actually, no, it's not actually applying the format. I thought it was possible to do that with this display format attribute. I was actually quite sure this would work. Let me see. Yeah, sometimes you just need to ask Google. Yeah, this is exactly what I'm doing. But apparently I need to add some braces here. Like this. Let me check again if this already helps. Nope, it doesn't. If somebody knows this just off the top of their head, then please let me know, because I forgot. Oh, I think I need to call the display for utility method. And actually, I think I should format it like this. Let's see. View model. Not view model, view. Let's say HTML display for. And I think you need to pass a lambda expression here. Yeah. Why is it still? Oh, It is correct, but for some reason it's not using slashes. Why? I specifically I specifically said here it's supposed to use slashes. Why is it not using slashes? I know that it's probably using it's probably looking up the current system culture and then uses the default separator from that is specified within the culture, which in this case is actually the dot, the period. Um, but I thought if I specifically say here that the format string is this with slashes, that it actually uses it like that. But why doesn't it do that? Oh yeah, right. I forgot. The in a format string for a date, the slash character is actually a reserved character that just means replace with whatever separator is specified for the current system culture. And to escape that, you just have to put this in quotes, I guess. At least I think so. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, obviously this image is still way too large. But I guess there's an easy fix for that. Um, those images I think should be, let me just double check. Um, hold on. If I go into debug mode here by pressing F12, I can select this element here, and it's just a IMG HTML element. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the CSS, and I'm going to say that within a block body, if there's an IMG, then the maximum width will be, I can't hard code that. What if I say 100%? Shouldn't that be, well, let's say 80%. It should be 80% of the parent, right? Yeah, there we go. So it's okay, but it's, I don't like the way it's scaled. I don't know from the top of my head how to make sure that the image scales properly. Hold on. I think I just have to say height auto. But I think that's the default actually. Not sure if this helps. Let's see. Oh, actually it did help. Okay, that was easy. But I also may want to center them. Well, actually I don't need to center them. I'm just going to say they're going to be 99%, and then that'll be fine. There. So I'm going to have to obviously fiddle with those with a design a little. This is just really plain and ugly. But from a data perspective and from a logical perspective, it works just fine. And there's something wrong here with the link. Let me see. Where is the view? There. Is this a problem? Why is this not a link? I don't get it. Let's press F12. Inspect. Why is the link missing? Wait, is the source URL not set? Yes, it should be. Let me put a breakpoint here. And there we go. it's null. That's the reason. Why is it null? That's weird. Let's go back here. Go in there. Yes. Oh, I guess there is no short URL, I guess. Yeah, the short URL is null. So let's just stop, remove the breakpoint. And I think there's some problem here with the mapping. Let's go into to here, and that's the problem. The underscore here is the problem. So RestSharp doesn't care. It's not case sensitive when it looks for the property names, but the underscore here does make a difference. So there's multiple ways we can fix this. Either we can just simply change the here the name and just include an underscore. That's not very pretty because yeah, it kind of violates the naming convention. I mean, it's not that big a deal, but I don't really want to go with that approach. Instead, maybe, hold on. I think you can also here. I think you can inject a naming resolution strategy or something. I would have to look that up in the documentation. Yeah, I don't need that anymore. Oh, obviously there's an attribute that I can use. If I go here, I can use an attribute named deserialize as. Then I can set the name to short URL. So now it knows that in the JSON, the property named short underscore URL should be mapped to this property. So let's take another look. There we go. And yeah, it's working. So now let's right click, open a new tab, and there it is. But yeah, I think it's way too large. It should be scaled a little bit. But that's just design. I just need to work with that. I just kind of work on that, utilizing the Bootstrap classes and writing some CSS and stuff. So yeah, but the general idea is working. So and I could also now so if I'm going to embed or use other sources for my blog posts, then I would just add them here in my blog post service. So right now it just looks up the WordPress blog posts on WordPress using the REST API. But later on I might add my own local blog posts that are stored in a database or something, and I would add that here. So it would then here look up the other blog posts in a database or fetch them from wherever, and then just add them to the collection of iBlog post instances. And yeah, that way it doesn't matter where the blog posts come from, and I can just add multiple sources yeah, whenever I feel like it. So yeah. But now an important thing also is that we need to be able to get the next blog post. So that's the last thing I want to do today. I'm going to add a button here. It says next or something. And when that is done, I'm going to call it a day. So let's go here. No, sorry, here. And let's look up Bootstrap buttons. Or maybe even the pagination. Yeah, but there's one thing. If I want to add a pagination, I need to also fetch beforehand how many blog posts there will be. So let's see. I guess there must be an endpoint in the REST API of WordPress where I can just get how many blog posts there are without the actual overhead of retrieving the actual posts. So let's take a look at the documentation really quick here. Posts. Wait. Context. Yeah, here. I can use the fields parameter to specify that, for example, only the ID should be retrieved. So that way I can reduce the overhead. So yeah, that's That's great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the WordPress REST client, and I'm going to add a new method here that simply returns an integer, and it's called count or get post count. And it's going to send a request to the same endpoint. And I'm going to add a parameter here. Fields. And the field will be ID. Let me just see here. ID is actually spelled with capital letters, so let's do that. I think it doesn't matter, but let's just be sure. And then I can actually do the same thing here, but instead of returning the posts, I will simply return the found property. And obviously this doesn't work because this expression would return a nullable integer, but I can just do this. Oh, sorry, this. So this way I should relatively effort-free be able to get the total number of posts there are. And I'm going to test that. I'm going to go into my unit test class here. Where is it? There. Test method. Get blog post count. Well, get post count. Yeah, it doesn't really specify the outcome. I don't know. It's successful if returns at least one. That'll be the condition. So let's create a client. Then call the get post count method. Obviously this needs to be assigned to a variable. And then just say assert not just say is true. There. And let's test this. And I'm actually going to go into debug mode just to see what exactly is happening and get the values and stuff. And there's 12, and that should be correct. So there's 12 posts in total. But hold on. This does work now, but it says in the documentation that this endpoint will return a maximum of 100 blog posts. So that means once I reach this limit, this will just always return 100, which is not ideal. obviously it's going to take a while for me to reach that limit, but there must be a better way. Isn't there just an endpoint for getting like general information? Get a list of the specimen. No. Reblog, search. Inside stats, maybe stats. Well, actually, no, I think we're good. Because, well, it does say that the number of posts to return is limited to 100, but I think the found property in the result still the actual number of posts found. So even if let's say there are 200 blog posts, which will probably never be the case, but if there were 200 blog posts on my WordPress, and I would call this endpoint, it would only return in the array here, in this posts array, it would only return 100 of the posts, but I think the found property would still say 200. So I think we're good. And it's going to take a while. Even if that's not the case, then it's going to take a long time for this to actually break. So I think it's fine. So now that I have the total number of blog posts, I can create a pagination with Bootstrap. So first of all, I'm going to go into the service here, into the blog post service, and I'm also going to add a method for retrieving that number. And it's going to use client. And I think I'm going to put this into a separate method, like private WordPress client, create WordPress client, there. Oh, and now in my get total blog post count method, I will just say WordPress REST client, WordPress client, create WordPress client, there, and then just say return WordPress client, WordPress client, get post count. And in the future, if I do actually add another source for the blog posts to be retrieved from, then I would just add that here. So in this case, I could do like plus and then some other source get post count, and then I would have the actual total number of blog posts, so that's fine. So this is okay. Let's go into the controller, blog post controller, and I'm going to I guess I could store it in a field. Oh, whoops. Just say private int total post count equals 0. And then here well, actually, I don't think I need this field. I'm just gonna keep it simple. I'm going to go into the view model. Then I will say here int total post count. And here in the controller, I will then say vm total post count equals blog post service get total blog post count there. And now I always know how many blog posts there are. And in the view, first of all, I really need to make this. Oh, what's wrong here? Oh, yeah, of course. Oh. I really need to make this, the rendered blog post, smaller. It's just huge. It needs to be more similar to how it is rendered on WordPress. So I go to blog there, and yeah, this is just huge. And if I go to WordPress here, it just looks much better. But I guess that's mainly because it's just not. It's just, I don't know. I think probably I should just reduce the width. But yeah, I think this is something we can tackle in the next stream, or I can do it off camera, so to speak. I don't know. I've been streaming for 3.5 hours. I didn't actually plan on streaming that long, and I should probably go to bed. So I think for now I would call it a day. Yeah, so consuming the REST API works perfectly fine. Obviously I would also need to implement some more error handling here in the client. Obviously something can always go wrong, like for some reason the WordPress REST API might not be accessible or might not be available due to server downtime or, well, whatever reason. So yeah, in that case I would have to properly handle that error, and currently I'm not handling any kind of errors here. So yeah, that would have to be optimized, of course. But yeah, for now, general idea, general concept is working. So yeah, I guess that's fine. And next stream, we will continue working on this. Thanks to everyone for tuning in and sticking by, and thanks for your interest. And I'm not sure if I'm going to work on this off camera, off screen. I don't know. This was all just a really spontaneous idea, so yeah, I'm not sure. But there's definitely going to be more live coding sessions in the future. So yeah, I'm really excited to do that with you throughout the lifetime of this channel. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, and have a nice day, everyone, and see you next time. Bye bye.